Hello everyone, my name is Anthony Harmon and I am your local professional real estate agent in Kansas City. Today's video is going to be a bit different. Rather than just flooding your feed with generic real estate tips that you've probably already seen 1,000 times today, we're going to be looking at the real history of real estate in the United States. We're going to be going over a comprehensive background all the way from the inception of the modern real estate market throughout the ebbs and flows, the crashes, the recessions, and then the resurgences, and then going over key events that really shaped our history. I just want everyone to have a great understanding as where we sit now, where we can look towards in the future from seeing where we have been. I think this is very important to try and reduce the amount of, I would say, freak out or hysteria that can sometimes surround the real estate market. Before we go over concrete dates, I would like to give you the 4 phases of real estate that repeat themselves throughout the history of our market. Then, as we go over the key events, you will be able to see in real time how these phases reveal themselves. These phases go as follows: recovery, expansion, hypersupply, and recession. We are currently in the recession phase. To save some time, we are going to skip over the events and recessions of the 1700s, such as the Panic of 1785 and the early copper scares, which led to recessions. They don't necessarily represent the modern market we currently experience near as much. So the first major real estate transaction we are going to talk about is going to start in the 1800s, and we will progress from there. The first major United States real estate transaction was in 1803 with the Louisiana Purchase, coming out to 828,000 square miles of land that comes out to $18 per square mile. For about the next 100 years, there's not too much to note as far as large key events and market movement, as the only people owning real estate throughout that time were really the top level of elites in the country with a very high level of entry that was not attainable by a majority of the middle and lower classes. So the real estate market really didn't start to take the shape that we recognize it in now until the early 1900s. The biggest event in the 1900s, and arguably the biggest event in not only real estate but in market history, came in 1929 as the Great Market Crash. This was the mark of the start of the Great Depression. The following decade would become known as the Great Depression. All throughout the 1930s was one of the worst times in U.S. history for not only the market, but also just the economy as a whole. Due to the over leverage of the stock market from too much borrowing from banks in an attempt to capitalize on dropping foreign markets led to a quick and sudden drop. The recession phase is started in the 1900s with this mark here. The mark of the recovery phase for this scenario would be the New Deal made by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, or FDR, which was aimed for economy recovery, provided jobs, and helped Americans get back on its feet to start the resurgence from the Great Depression decade. The Great Depression and the New Deal was very trying times for the United States. As it was an attempt to capitalize on foreign markets failing, it ended up doing the same to ours. Whenever it came to FDR and the New Deal, it was a mark of a resurgence and really the revitalization of real estate for the next century. Over the next 60 years, we would see steady growth of the real estate market and economy as a whole, with the circling recessions and real estate phases surrounding the wars throughout the remainder of the century. This would be comprised mostly of both the expansion and hypersupply phases. With only a couple recessions lasting more than a year over that time stretch, we will move on to the next prominent event for the real estate market in U.S. history. The 2008 market housing crash would be the mark of the next great drop in the market since the market crash from 1929. This became known as the Great Recession, also known as the subprime mortgage crisis, which was caused by a failed bank and lending system that was destined to fail from the moment it began. Mortgages that were made that were never able to be paid off and the debt sold over and over again, never reflecting its initial value, would be the catalyst for one of the worst market events in history. The recovery phase was started by the unprecedented bailouts from the U.S. government to get and keep the large banks from going out of business and the stock market from going down any further. From the market housing crash in 2008 up until the 2016 timeframe, we saw amazing growth in the housing market throughout the United States. That was in the hypersupply phase all the way leading up to 2020. You could even call that extreme hypersupply phase. We were going through incredible economy growth, real estate growth. It was really a time of prosperity for our market and our economy. Now that leads us to the next phase, because as you follow and you see these trends going throughout the real estate history and markets, you know that once it hits hypersupply phase, after it comes from the recovery phase, then it's destined for recession phase. These things repeat over and over, and that is the overlying concept of this video, to show that these things are repeatable through history. They happen over and over again. Lastly is the market recession we now face, stemming from 2020 with events like the COVID-19 lockdowns and the hypersupply from the years prior. It was the perfect storm for a recession. Large amounts of job loss leading to a struggle to keep up with supply following the lockdowns, near zero interest rates causing overdemand in a market lacking supply, and on top of that, enormous amounts of money being produced by the federal government in attempts to prop up the stock market led to a boiling point that we now face. As you can see, the 4 real estate phases have repeated since the inception of the modern real estate market, and they will continue to do so. No matter what phase of the market you are living in, love, growth, and hard work will always prevail in any situation. Be positive and just keep on working, because even though we are in a recession phase now, we've been there before. All we can do is keep pushing forward to get to that recovery phase, onto expansion, hypersupply again. So we can study the faults in the past to try and extend the good phases of the future. This concludes this video, and I hope you all enjoyed this brief history lesson on real estate markets and value this type of content. As this ever-changing market continues to develop, I will keep you guys updated. And if you like this type of content and you want to see more real estate knowledge, comment below or DM me with any ideas that you guys have. I'm very open to doing any types of content. I love challenging myself and looking into new things. So feel free to reach out with anything you would like to see. And as always, be safe, be smart. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.